the disappointment of not finishing these last couple of games. We've been, once again, just right on the doorstep of getting it done, but haven't quite been able to get over the hump here in the second half of the season. And listen, there's a part of disappointment with that you can't ignore. It's there. It's when you compete at the highest level and when you set out big goals and you go for it, every now and then you're going to come up short, and you can't. That's part of it. That's part of competing at the highest level. But you can't let that deter you from, well, it didn't work out this time, so now I'm not going to go put my best foot forward the next time or the next opportunity. And the great thing for this team is we have one opportunity left here, one great opportunity. And judging by the way that we practiced tonight, by the way our meetings went this morning and this afternoon, these guys are very well at that, and I think we'll be ready to play on Saturday.
Coach, after getting a chance to digest this last one, where were the areas of concern that hopefully going into this last week of the season that you can kind of correct and then get right for the next season?
Well, I mean, I would say, defensively, we did a pretty nice job in the run game. We held them significantly under their season rushing average. We didn't give up big plays in the run game, which obviously that was a huge point of emphasis coming out of the Washington game. So we did some good things there. The pass defense was not good. I mean, we gave up the two big ones early that, you've got multiple guys there that have opportunities to make the plays and didn't make it. And I certainly don't want to put it all in our secondary. We had a lot of guys. Well, we obviously played without four different players, but then we had a lot of guys that you can tell watching the film were not anywhere near probably even 80%. They just kind of gutted it out for the program and for the team because we really didn't have anybody else. You had to throw Mekhi Lemon in there, who's a receiver. I mean, it was kind of an all hands on deck deal. But no excuses. We were not good enough in the obviously in the pass defense, not good enough in the secondary to get it done. We made a couple of key mental errors. Obviously, the biggest one being the offsides. Lining up offsides. You talk about in a game that ended up being a 9-point game. Very potentially a 14-point swing there. They go for the quarterback sneak on 4th and 1 and backed up. We stuff them, and that was a monster play. Offensively, there were some good things of the 2-minute drives, kind of closing the half. But we had too many negative plays, got behind the chains a little bit too often, and obviously had the one huge fumble, which was that was obviously another monumental play in the game. You take. You just look kind of at the turnovers and like when the ball was on the ground, we had the fumble there. They had two different times that the ball ends up on the ground, snaps, including one coming out of their end zone that their running back literally kicks, and they end up with a 3-yard gain out of it. It kind of came down to those couple. And, once again, we put ourselves in position, obviously, to make it an 8-point game right there at the end with all types of time left. And we came up just short. So, got to be better this week. Another good opponent coming in here. Really, really good defensive football team. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's been a little bit of the same story. Obviously, here I was proud and excited about what we did in some of the run game, and especially limiting the big play runs. And if we can do that and clean up a little bit of the secondary play, I think we'll have a chance to make a jump this week.
You mentioned the secondary having their hands full, and really that's been the case for most secondaries that have played Oregon. Bo Nix is flirting with breaking the FBS record for a completion percentage in a season. What about his game, and what about that offense, and what about the Ducks in general have allowed them to have that consistent production week in and week out this season?
Yeah, they've done a good job. They're pretty strong at kind of all levels of the offense. You got the most experienced quarterback in college football history. You have a good offensive line. They've got good skill players around them, whether it be the backs, the receivers. They've got a nice core of tight ends. It's a good group. It's an experienced group. And then they do a good job of playing to their strengths. They don't overdo it too much in the passing game. They keep things pretty simple. Get the ball out of their hands, and the running game and the line and all that have been good enough for them that they've been able to do it. And then they've played good complementary ball. The defense has been a good group, especially here in the second half of the year, a challenging group. And so, they've got some momentum right now, and you got to give them credit.
You're listening to the head coach, Lincoln Riley, on Trojans Live. You mentioned that Saturday is senior day. In this era, with the transfer portal and the COVID years, it is very difficult for us to figure out people's eligibility. I'm sure you have some board in your office, so you all have it. How does that work now? Do you have a conversation with them now, or do they just sort of elect to come out, and then after the season you'll still have that conversation with some of the guys that could pull a Justin Dedich and come back?
Yeah, you got kind of two groups of guys. You have a group of guys that they know are that this is going to be their last year as a USC Trojan. And, those guys, typically go through this ceremony and go through and have their family out there and participate in Senior Day. Now, participating in Senior Day doesn't necessarily mean that they have to. You're not signing anything.
Right.
And so that's typically what we reserve it for. And we'll have a handful of guys that certainly will have to make decisions, as you said, in this era, whether it be it transfer portal, NFL draft, all of those things ahead. And so, yeah, we'll have. There is some advantage in kind of having that next week, with the bye week, because there will be a lot of opportunities to dive into that with our roster, and then obviously you start to look ahead into with recruiting and the portal opening up and all that's getting ready to happen. Having a few of those days will make it our advantage.
Coach, you mentioned depth concerns a little bit last week, especially in the secondary. Are you hoping to get some guys back healthy this week, or does it look like it's going to be more of the same? Obviously, a lot of teams at this time of the year, depth's a concern, especially right now in the secondary.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we'll have a chance to get a handful of guys back, which will be good. Especially, as you said, the secondary's been the one that's been just kind of the most hit by the injury bug. And so, yeah, hopefully to get guys like Jalen Smith and Covington and some of those guys that have obviously been contributors, and then even some of the guys that played the other night, hopefully getting a chance for those guys just to be healthier.
Or get another week.
Had we had anybody else, we would have, probably not played those guys in an effort to try to have them ready for this one, because some of them honestly probably weren't well enough to play. And so, yeah, I think we've got a chance to be better. Obviously, see how the week unfolds, but certainly crossing our fingers.
With it being senior night, I saw Taj Washington say he's had 5 head coaches in college, and obviously a lot of these guys they've been through a lot with the head coaching change. A lot of guys transfer portal and whatnot. You come into a season with high expectations, and you fall short of that a little bit. How do you position that to the seniors while still celebrating them, but also not just going out for moral victories and whatnot?
Yeah, I think it's you've been in it. You've been a competitor. I mean, they're going to remember this game. Like you remember your last games. You remember your rivalry games. You remember some of those games when you had to really pull in tough together as a football team. And so I think, making sure that we do everything we can to make this last memory a positive one, and to send these guys out on the right note. I mean, so many of these guys have been instrumental in this turnaround. I mean, I think, 2 years ago, if you'd asked, I think, anybody involved with this program, hey, we're going to, go through 2 years. We're going to be in championship type games late in the season both years. We're going to have 1 year we have, be right there on the doorstep of being in the college football playoff. From where this thing was, hell, everybody would have taken that. Everybody. And we forget that now, but everybody would have taken it. And these guys have been so key to that. And as this thing goes and gets better and better and better as these years go on, we can't lose appreciation for these guys here in the beginning that help push this thing along. And there's a lot of those guys that obviously still on this team, a handful obviously from that only played last year, but they've been so important to this, so critical to this. We couldn't have done it without them, and we want to make sure that they see our appreciation in the way that we play, and the fan support that we have there during the game, the way that we coach. When you do it here, you put it all on the line. All right, you go for it. This is USC. Like, anything less than your best is not good enough.
Well, it is time for the Crosstown Showdown this week, and those are the games that are remembered forever. Last year's was a classic. Who knows what Saturday will bring, but it brings a great kick time, guys. Not that we didn't all enjoy the 4 a.m. landing last week, but it'll be nice to kick off at 12:30 on the afternoon, a nice sunny day, hopefully at the Coliseum, USC, UCLA. That game will be on ABC. We'll go on at 10:30 a.m. in the USC Trojans Media Network for the Trojan Tailgate Show, and the game is sponsored by I Trust. Monster Energy, the official energy drink of USC. Unleash the Beast. We'll talk about UCLA and the Crosstown Showdown next on Trojans Live. Trojans Live is sponsored by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC football. And hey, Trojan fans, did you know the Ralph's app gives you easy access to weekly sales and personalized coupons, and you can earn fuel points too? Check out the app today and save while you cheer us on to another great season. Ralph's, proud partner of USC Athletics. Another segment here with the head coach Lincoln Riley. I'm Jordan Moore with Sean Cody and Max Brown. Coach, strength on strength when you've got the football on Saturday. One of the best offenses in the country in USC, the best defense statistically in the Pac-12 in UCLA. What do you see from them on that side of the football that they've been able to really turn things around and become such a stingy unit?
Yeah, they've done a great job. They've, I'd tell you that really quality players and quality depth on the defensive line and at the linebacker position. I mean, the front seven is really strong. Just plain and simple. They got a first rounder, a probable first rounder, obviously, that leads them, that came back to school and has done a great job. And then they've got 3 or 4 others on the defensive line. A big interior kid that's really done a nice job kind of helping them with the run game. A couple other edge rush type players and very versatile players in there. So yeah, I think quality depth. They've been able to stay pretty healthy in there, and that unit, that front seven really leads that defense. I mean, there's no question, and they've done a good job playing to their strengths. They really have. They've done a nice job against the run. They've made teams hang on to the football and let those guys, have a chance to get after the quarterback and affect the game that way. And then it's been successful for them. And so, yeah, you got to give them credit. They've had a nice, turnaround. They certainly have improved, obviously, a lot. And when you're as strong as they are up front, that's one hell of a place to start.
Yeah, offensively, it hasn't been the same for the Bruins. A little struggle on that side. A bunch of quarterback rotation. Really haven't found home there at the quarterback position. Early on in the season, looked like they were running the ball pretty successfully, but now defenses kind of know maybe a one-dimensional team. Now, what do you see from them offensively?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the quarterback kind of carousel that they've had a little bit is certainly, it looks like it's affected them.
Yeah.
And Chip's as good as anybody at getting the quarterbacks to play at a high level, but it's hard to play, with that many guys, and they've had some injuries and all of that. And so, and they're, they had some really good playmakers last year, some really dynamic guys, some guys that are really experienced. I mean, losing obviously the Charbonnet, who really, obviously, Dorian was tremendous last year too, but Charbonnet I thought was the one that really, really made them pop. And so, you can tell they're missing a few of those guys. They've had their moments where they've shown some explosiveness, and as you said, they've had some games they've really run the ball well. So, I mean, we're going to get their best effort. Like we understand that. They're going to get ours too. And so we'll see what happens with the quarterback situation and be ready for anything and everything.
Flipping it back to our roster, I want to ask you about Duce Robinson. It feels like his role has steadily increased throughout the season. And I know when I first heard about him, I heard tight end. I was like, all right, sweet, it's a tight end weapon. He's been more of an outside receiver role, which I'm sure in some regard is, hey, he's a younger guy. It's, as his body matures, maybe that role increases. But I guess, what have you seen from him in practice that has allowed him to elevate his role? And then long term, is the vision for him to stay outside or start playing inside the box?
Yeah, Duce has done a really nice job. He's improved a lot throughout the year. Been impressed that he's been able to, like all young guys, he's had a few mistakes in games, but then he's been able to come back and make a lot of big plays too. Like the Washington's a great example. He had the drop on one of the third downs, but then comes right back after, blocks a punt. Had the huge reception there late in the game. Made some plays for us the other night. So he's a really, really talented kid. For a freshman, he's very detail-oriented. There's a lot of maturity with him, and he's just growing and gaining confidence fast. And he is a pretty tough matchup out there. I mean, there's just not many guys with that type of size and that type of athleticism. So, yeah, I feel like he's still scratching the surface in a lot of ways. But, yeah, I think to the point where we have enough confidence that he's starting to play a pretty regular role for us offensively. And if he keeps growing and progressing, not just this year, but obviously throughout his career, there's no telling where that could take him.
You're listening to the head coach, Lincoln Riley, on Trojans Live. Coming up next will be Taj Washington. Mr. Consistency, Taj, I mean, how has he been able to close his season on such a high note? I mean, I feel like there were times this year where we're sort of looking around for a wide receiver one, and then, he has just come out here and just strung together big game after big game.
Yeah, he's played well. He's made the most opportunities. I think just the coaches, Caleb, everybody has a lot of confidence in him. He's always that guy that's almost always in the right spot, always there to make the play, making the tough plays, a yard after catch. There is just such a reliability factor with this kid and has been since the day we walked in the door. So, yeah, it's been cool to see him kind of take that over and really kind of take the reins as our lead receiver. And just you're happy for kids like that, man. He's paid his dues in this program. He's paid his dues in college football. He's done it the right way. He's worked hard. He's blocked well. He's been a tremendous special teams player. I mean, a great team first guy. He's been a great representative for this program. So it's been a joy to coach him, man. And it's been fun to see him have the run that he's been on here the last several games.
Coach, when you're going against a really dominant defensive line, I mean, we saw ASU last week go swinging gate. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting wrinkles. I don't know if the swinging gate's in the playbook, but any interesting wrinkles you're hopefully – I mean, you're not going to give the playbook away, but anything cool this week that you might implement against that, really front strong defense?
Yeah, you got to be – you certainly have to be conscious of it, right? Like that's – that it's their strength. And I give them credit. They do a good job. They're very creative. It's not like they just – sit there in the same front and same look every single play. They do a nice job of moving those guys around, kind of changing the looks for you. And they've done a good job of keeping some of the offenses that they've played guessing in that regard. So, I think in some respects you got to be smart about what you do, but at the same time, great defensive linemen are going to be a factor when you run the ball. They're going to be a factor when you throw the ball, certainly if you hang on to it at any point. So we'll have to have a good mix of being smart, but then also, you got to go execute.
Got to win.
Right? Yeah, you got to go block. You got to go win the one-on-one blocks. You got to go, give our guys chances to make plays. So that'll obviously be a key matchup throughout the game.
Coach, you mentioned last year that, hey, the team probably overperformed from expectations potentially, and then this year maybe the opposite way. And it feels like when you look at the college football landscape historically, there's teams that can tend to hang around that 10-2 mark where they're right there and they can walk away at the end of the season feeling like, hey, that's a good season, but maybe not able to get over the hump. Does a season like this maybe allow a roster or a team to look themselves in the mirror more so than if you had found a way to block that kick versus Utah? And the optics around the season are different, and especially with the amount of roster movement and mobility and guys coming in and out. Is that just me making something up, or is there truth in that a little bit?
Well, I think you have to take whatever happens and make it your advantage. Yeah, because like you said, we're probably 3 or 4 plays away from being, a 10-1 football team right now. And then would that mask in some way some of the areas that we still have to really grow and progress as a program? Maybe in some way it would. You want to say no, but deep down, if we're sitting here 10-1, then the probably attitude of everyone would probably feel just a little bit different.
No doubt.
And that's the nature of this game, and having been through it just a little bit. I try to stay pretty steady. I mean, I knew even after 11 wins last year and all the good stuff, I knew we still had a ways to go. There's still steps that you got to make. That even, like you said, we had a few of those that we haven't won this year. We found a way to win those last year, but that were really, really close to and could have gone either way. And that's part of it, I think, especially here in the beginning as we're growing. Obviously, the longer-term vision is to be able to put out a group that has an opportunity to really separate in more games and be more dominant and be more kind of evenly the strengths of the team more evenly distributed across the board. And we're going to get there. Listen, we are absolutely going to get there. This is and I do think, to your question, the answer is we have to make it an advantage, right? We have to take the lessons learned. We have to take the spotlight on some of the areas that are not strong enough in this program right now and do everything possible. And that's coaches, that's players, that's support staff, that's administration, that's fans, that's a
radio broadcast team.
Radio broadcasting. I mean,
definitely the color guy.
No question. That's the support around NIL. I mean, it's all of those things have to be elite to do it, and we've got to all get better, and it obviously starts with me.
Well, it starts with USC versus UCLA on Saturday, presented by I Trust, a 12:30 kick. Let's fill every one of those seats in the Coliseum. The game is sold out, but you got to use that ticket. You got to stand in there, and you got to make some noise and beat the Bruins on Saturday. Our show will go on at 10:30 a.m. Come on early and hang out with us in the Trojan Tailgate Show. Good luck this week. Good luck this week, Coach. Lincoln Riley looking to go 2-0 in his USC career as a head coach against UCLA. Taj Washington, as promised, is next on Trojans Live.